The sky burned with fire. Massive Zelver warships broke through Earth's atmosphere, their dark, jagged forms casting shadows over entire cities. The people of Earth stared upward, their faces filled with shock, fear, and disbelief. The invasion had begun. The Zelver Empire, a race of conquerors, had expanded across the galaxy, crushing weaker civilizations under their rule. They believed humanity would be the same, weak, afraid, and easy to control. They were wrong. The demand for surrender. A deep metallic voice boomed across all communication channels. Humans of Earth, we are the Zelver. Surrender now, and we will allow some of you to live. Resist, and your world will burn. In the United Nations War Room, Earth's leaders listened in silence. The holographic image of Supreme Commander Vrothak, a towering Zelver warrior with 4 arms and blood-red eyes, flickered before them. His expression was calm, confident. He had seen this before, species surrendering without a fight, begging for mercy. He expected the same from humanity. Instead, he was met with silence. Then, after a long pause, the President of Earth leaned forward and smiled. No, the connection cut off. The invasion was on. The first strike. The Zelver warships descended, targeting military bases, communication hubs, and power grids. Their weapons rained destruction, obliterating buildings, melting steel, and turning roads into craters. In the ruins of New York, Captain Daniel Cole crawled out from under the wreckage of a destroyed bunker. The Zelver attack had been precise, too precise. They knew where to hit us, Cole muttered, wiping dust and blood from his face. Around him, bodies of fallen soldiers lay scattered, their weapons useless against the superior alien firepower. Earth's first defenses had crumbled within hours. But Cole was not broken. Through his earpiece, he heard a familiar voice. Survivors, regroup at Rally Point Bravo. We are still in this fight. Cole picked up his rifle, gritted his teeth, and ran toward the ruins. The resistance awakens. The Zelver ground forces marched through the ruined cities, their tall, armored figures moving like unstoppable machines. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy, ready to wipe out any remaining resistance. But as they moved deeper into the streets, something changed. The silence was too perfect. The streets were too empty. A Zelver commander raised a fist, signaling his troops to halt. His black eyes scanned the ruins. Something was wrong. Then, boom! An explosion erupted from below. The street collapsed, swallowing several Zelver warriors into a pit filled with fire and debris. From the rooftops, human snipers opened fire. Bullets pierced alien skulls, dropping them instantly. From alleyways and underground tunnels, human soldiers emerged, armed with everything they had left. Machine guns, homemade bombs, even steel pipes, anything that could kill. The Zelver had expected an easy battle. They had walked into a trap. Guerrilla warfare begins. In the streets of Paris, small human resistance cells launched hit-and-run attacks on alien patrols, vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. In the mountains of Russia, hidden missile bases fired salvos at enemy warships, bringing several crashing down in flames. In the deserts of Africa, entire cities disappeared underground, their people moving through tunnels, striking the enemy when they least expected it. The Zelver struggled to keep up. They had expected humans to fight like other species, a direct war, army against army. But humans didn't fight fair. They fought like hunters, like survivors, like demons. A deadly mistake. Supreme Commander Vrothak watched the reports in his warship's command center. This is unexpected, he admitted. A Zelver officer turned to him. Their military forces are weaker than ours, but they are unpredictable. They'd fight like cornered animals. Vrothak narrowed his eyes. Then we burn their spirit, he said coldly. A city in flames. That night, The HFY fleet targeted Earth's largest cities: London, Tokyo, Moscow, Los Angeles. They bombed them from orbit, turning millions of human lives to ash. The world watched in horror as entire civilizations were wiped out. The HFY believed that fear would break humanity, that grief would make them surrender. They were wrong again. As the fires burned, as the smoke rose into the heavens, humanity did not weep. They sharpened their blades. They loaded their rifles. And they whispered a single promise. The HFY believed the war was already won. Their superior technology, massive warships, and experienced soldiers had crushed hundreds of civilizations before. To them, humanity was just another weak species, too fragile, too divided, too primitive to resist. But the humans were not afraid. They were angry. And anger is a dangerous weapon. The HFY's first mistake. On board the HFY command ship, Supreme Commander Awoke watched the battle unfold from his war room. The holographic display showed Earth's ruined cities, burning under the might of his forces. HFY soldiers marched through the streets, hunting down the last of the human resistance. Awoke turned to his officers, his expression calm. Their defenses have collapsed. Their armies are in disarray. This war is over. The HFY officers nodded in agreement. The humans had suffered heavy losses. Their military bases were destroyed. Their cities were reduced to rubble. Surely they would surrender soon. But then, the reports started coming in. HFY patrols going missing. Supply routes under attack. Warships sabotaged from within. At first, Awoke dismissed them as isolated incidents, but then the reports grew worse. Entire battalions were wiped out overnight. HFY officers were found dead in their own command centers. Human resistance fighters were using HFY weapons against them. This was not the behavior of a defeated species. This was something else. Something far more dangerous. The resistance strikes back. In the ruins of what was once Washington, D.C., Captain Daniel Cole watched as his squad prepared for their next ambush. They had spent days studying the enemy, learning their patrol patterns, their weaknesses, their technology. The HFY were strong, but arrogant. They believed their armor made them unstoppable. They had never faced humans in a guerrilla war. Cole tapped his earpiece. "Snipers, you in position." From the rooftop of a collapsed building, Sergeant Lewis adjusted his rifle. "Locked and loaded, sir." Cole turned to the rest of his squad. "All right. We hit fast, we hit hard, and we disappear before they can react." The squad nodded. Then, the ambush began. The moment that HFY patrol entered the kill zone, explosions erupted. The streets shook with fire and smoke as homemade bombs tore through the alien ranks. Before the HFY could recover, bullets rained down from above. Lewis's sniper rifle punched through their helmets, dropping them one by one. The remaining soldiers tried to retreat, but Cole's team was already on them. Close quarters combat. Knives against alien armor. A fight the HFY thought they would win. But humans didn't fight with strength alone. They fought with speed, strategy, and pure, unrelenting fury. Within minutes, the entire HFY patrol was wiped out. Cole exhaled, wiping the blood from his knife. One less squad to worry about. Cracks in the Empire. Awoke paced inside his war room, his claws tapping against the metal floor. The humans should have been defeated by now. Instead, they were adapting, learning, turning the war in their favor. He watched the latest battle reports with growing frustration. HFY supply lines were cut off. Their warships were being hacked and disabled. Even their soldiers, once so confident, now moved in fear. It was clear now. Humanity would not surrender. Awoke turned to his officers, his red eyes burning with anger. They refused to die. They refused to kneel. His claws curled into fists. "Then we burned their world to ash." Escalation. The HFY changed tactics. No more patrols. No more occupation forces. Instead, they bombed entire regions. Cities were turned into craters. Farmlands became wastelands. Millions of humans were wiped out in an instant. It was no longer a war. It was extermination. The HFY believed that this would finally break humanity. But once again, they were wrong. Because the survivors didn't lose hope. They didn't surrender. They became monsters. The monster in the dark. Deep in the underground bunkers beneath Norway, a group of human scientists worked tirelessly. They had taken captured HFY weapons, armor, and ships and turned them into something new. Something designed to kill HFY. In the flickering light of a makeshift laboratory, an old general watched as a soldier stepped forward in a new type of combat suit. Black, sleek, nearly unbreakable. The general's lips curled into a cold smile. The HFY think they can wipe us out. Let's show them how wrong they are. The soldier loaded his rifle, his expression emotionless. Humanity was done running. The HFY thought their brutal bombings would break humanity's spirit. Instead, it hardened them. Across the planet, resistance cells multiplied, adapted, and struck back with lethal precision. Every HFY patrol that entered a city never returned. Supply convoys were ambushed and destroyed. The humans were no longer just defending. They were hunting. Inside an underground bunker, Captain Daniel Cole studied a holographic map. "We've got their patterns," he said, his voice cold and determined. "They expect us to stay scattered, to stay weak. We won't." His squad, hardened by months of brutal war, nodded in agreement. That night, under the cover of darkness, they struck. They hacked into HFY base's security systems, shutting down power, jamming communications, and planting explosives. When the base erupted into flames, humanity sent its message loud and clear. "We are still here." On board the HFY flagship, Supreme Commander Awoke watched the reports with growing frustration. His armies were losing ground to an enemy that should have been crushed. His officers spoke of fear creeping through their ranks. The humans were unpredictable, relentless. They fought with a fury that HFY had never encountered before. Awoke's red eyes narrowed. If humanity refused to be conquered, then there was only one solution left. He turned to his fleet commanders and spoke two words that would change the war forever. Burn everything. The HFY shifted their strategy. If humanity refused to surrender, they would ensure there was nothing left to fight for. Entire regions were scorched from orbit, cities were erased, and survivors were hunted down without mercy. The once thriving planet was turning into a graveyard. But even as the skies burned, humanity refused to break. Instead, they became more ruthless, more precise, more deadly. Deep in the Arctic, inside a hidden military bunker, Captain Daniel Cole and his team studied the wreckage of a downed HFY warship. Engineers worked tirelessly, reverse engineering alien technology, searching for weaknesses. Days turned into weeks, but then they found it. The HFY ships relied on a centralized command system. If they could hack into it, they could cripple the fleet. It was a long shot, a suicide mission, but humanity was out of options. Cole looked at his team, his jaw set. "We take the fight to them." Under the cover of a solar storm, a small group of elite human soldiers infiltrated a HFY command station on the dark side of the moon. Using stolen alien weapons and newly developed cyber warfare tools, they breached the station's mainframe. Within minutes, chaos erupted. HFY warships lost communication. Turrets turned against their own fleets, and planetary defenses were shut down. For the first time in the war, the hunters had become the hunted. Supreme Commander Awoke watched in stunned silence as his fleet descended into madness. Ships collided, soldiers turned on each other, and entire battalions were lost. His war machine, once unstoppable, was falling apart. Awoke's claws dug into the metal of his command chair. This was not how it was supposed to be. The humans had been weak. They had been outmatched, and yet, here they were, standing, fighting, winning. The HFY had made a mistake. They had underestimated humanity. And now, they would pay the price. The HFY fleet was in chaos. Their once perfect coordination was shattered by the human infiltration. Warships drifted helplessly, their systems fried by cyberattacks. Ground forces, cut off from their commanders, fell into confusion. The unstoppable invasion force that had once marched across Earth was now vulnerable. In the ruins of Washington, D.C., Captain Daniel Cole and his squad watched the sky as Selvar ships began to fall. Fireballs streaked across the atmosphere as disabled warships crashed into the Earth. Cheers erupted among the surviving resistance fighters. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity was winning. But Cole knew the fight wasn't over. He turned to his team, his voice steady. "This is our moment. We push forward. We take back what's ours." Across the planet, human forces rose from the shadows. Resistance cells launched coordinated attacks on remaining Selvar outposts. Selvar commanders, once arrogant and fearless, now cowered behind their failing defenses. In the mountains, in the deserts, in the ruined cities, humanity fought like demons. The war was no longer about survival. It was about payback. On board that Selvar flagship, Supreme Commander Vrothak's fury was unmatched. His empire had never lost a war. But here, on a planet of so-called primitives, his forces were being torn apart. He slammed a fist into the command table, his voice a growl. "Prepare the doomsday weapon. If we cannot conquer Earth, we will destroy it." The bridge fell silent. The humans had proven themselves dangerous, but Vrothak was about to show them the true power of the HFY. Supreme Commander Vrothak stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, his red eyes burning with rage. The humans had turned the tide, but he would not allow his empire to suffer defeat. He raised a clawed hand, activating a holographic display. A massive black sphere hovered above Earth's atmosphere, the doomsday weapon. A last resort device capable of erasing all life on the planet. If he couldn't rule Earth, he would reduce it to dust. On the surface, Captain Daniel Cole and his resistance fighters intercepted a Selvar transmission. Their worst fears were confirmed. The enemy was about to wipe out the entire planet. Cole's stomach tightened. They had to stop it. But how? Earth's remaining forces were scattered, exhausted, and outgunned. Still, surrender was never an option. Cole took a deep breath and spoke into his radio. "We go up there. We take that weapon offline, or we all die trying." Using a hijacked Selvar dropship, a team of human commandos launched into space. They had one goal: destroy the doomsday weapon before it fired. As they approached, Selvar fighters rushed to intercept. Lasers ripped through the darkness. Explosions flared, but the humans pushed forward. They crash-landed onto the weapon's surface, blasting their way inside. Time was running out. The weapon's energy core was already charging. If they failed, Earth would be lost. Vrothak watched as alarms blared through his flagship. Humans had infiltrated the doomsday weapon. His claws tightened into fists. Kill them. Now. But it was too late. Deep inside the weapon's core, Cole and his team planted explosives, setting a final timer. As they fought their way back to the ship, Cole looked at the countdown. 10 seconds left. He turned, fired one last shot at a charging Selvar warrior, and dove into the escape pod. Behind them, the doomsday weapon erupted in a massive explosion, lighting up space like a second sun. Earth was safe, but the war was not over. The doomsday weapon was gone. The explosion lit up the night sky, visible from every corner of Earth. On the surface, resistance fighters cheered. Their hope reignited. The Selvar's ultimate weapon had failed, and now humanity was coming for them. On board his crippled flagship, Supreme Commander Vrothak stood frozen, watching the ruins of his greatest weapon drift into space. His empire had never lost before. Until now. The humans had done the impossible. They had resisted, adapted, and fought back with a fury unlike anything the Excelver had ever seen. His war machine was crumbling. His fleet was in disarray. And now, the humans were on the offensive. Captain Daniel Cole, still bruised from the battle in space, stood before a gathering of Earth's surviving military leaders. His voice was steady as he spoke. "We have them on the run. Now, we finish this." Across the planet, humans rallied. Captured Selver weapons were turned against their former masters. Cities that once lay in ruins became battlegrounds of resistance. Every street, every building, every mountain became a trap for the invaders. The Excelver were no longer hunters. They were prey. Desperate, Vrothek ordered a full retreat. Selver warships abandoned their positions, fleeing Earth's orbit. But humanity did not let them escape. Stolen Selver ships, now piloted by human forces, chased them into space. The once mighty Excelver Empire was now a broken fleet, fleeing from the very species they had tried to exterminate. As the last alien warship jumped to hyperspace, Captain Cole watched from the bridge of a captured vessel, his expression unreadable. The war was over, but humanity had changed forever.